Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So Modern Horizon 3 spoilers are wrapping up. I believe today might be the last day, so maybe some exciting ones still to come. But yeah, we got some crazy ones, potentially broken ones, and one obnoxiously amazing one. Let's jump into them. So, let's start things off with yet another MDFC land hydroelectric specimen, a 1/4 weird. I always found that to be a funny creature type. It's a weird creature. Yes, it is. With flash that costs 2 and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, you may change the target of target instant or sorcery spell of a single target to hydroelectric specimen. And the other side, we'll get to it in a little bit, but hey, it's a land. Regardless, being able to just, again, throw this in the deck, just not including this basically in your counting of, okay, can I have this many cards in my deck and I need this many lands? No, this is a land. It basically doesn't take up a spot in your deck. This is a really, really good card because this, well, I mean, you can utilize as a flash-in blocker if you need one. Or, of course, yeah, I mean, if someone's targeting something that you don't want them to target, you're like, no, this one. This one. Your Swords of Plowshares won't take out my commander. It takes out the specimen. So it's kind of like a weird counterspell in a way. Weird. There you go. The backside is the laboratory itself, which is like, hey, this is before this thing broke out. See? Anyways, enters battlefield, pay 3 life. If you don't, enters battlefield, tap 3 blue. So again, lightning bolt's worth of damage. We only saw that on the mythic cards a couple of years ago when we got the original MDFCs. And this one's like, no, uncommon gets it. So yeah, it can even enter battlefield untapped for you. But again, less than 1/10 of your life total. A fantastic new card. Moving on. Consign to memory, a big thank you to MTG Goldfish for the translated version of this card and some of the other ones as well. Instant for a single blue mana. Replicate 1. So you can copy this as many times as you want by paying that 1. Counter target, triggered ability, or colorless spell. So that can be quite good when it comes to getting rid of triggered abilities. Or, yeah, colorless spells. I think it's pretty specific in Commander to be including this, unless you're like, hey, one of my opponents only plays colorless decks, or another one of my opponents only plays triggered ability decks. Yeah, there you go. Moving on. Etched Slith. A 1/1 Phyrexian Slith with Menace that costs 1 and a black. When it deals combat damage to a player, put a counter on it. When you do, you may remove a counter from another target, permanent, or opponent. Interesting that you can remove counters from opponents. That's quite interesting. Working with like experience counters, potentially, you can get rid of those. Or if you're being very generous, you're like, hey, you want to be my buddy? You got some poison counters on you. And they're like, yeah, that player over there is poisoning me. And you're like, okay, let's remove that. Now be my buddy. Oh, okay, cool. Seems pretty specific. Probably not for Commander, really. Moving on. Ethereum Petramander, a 1/1 Salamander Drake artifact creature that costs a single black mana. Flying. Can only block creatures flying. Who cares? 6 and a black, adapt 4. This ability costs 1 less attack for each other artifact you control. So this can actually become, it's kind of like an interesting like combination of a couple things. There was an older Petramander, I believe. Is that in one of the Ravnica sets? I think so. Anyways, that also adapted. But this one, costing less for each artifact you control, that can be quite easy to pay. I mean, at a certain point, just a single black mana to make this into a 5/5 flyer. You can only block flyers, which is okay. I mean, you probably just want this in any kind of a deck that likes low to the ground evasive creatures that just need to get through. So like the flying men type strategy. Yeah, keep that in mind. Moving on. Hex Gold Slith. A 2/1 Slith. That's so hard to say. For 1 and a white. Enters the battlefield, you get 200 counters. When it attacks, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, it gains first strike until end of turn. When it deals counters to a player, you get a counter on it. Yeah, quite good. When it comes to energy decks. Outside of energy decks, no. Moving on. Lion Umbra, an enchantment aura that enchants modified creatures only. Interesting. For green, modified creatures are ones that either have counters on them, auras on them, or equipment on them. +3/3 vigilance and reach Umbra armor. Hey, are you playing in a deck that cares about a lot of other, most likely auras, typically is what you'd use this in? Great. It's a really good one. It's low to the ground. And it gives like protection with the Umbra armor, and also +3/3 vigilance and reach is quite nice. Are you not doing that? Then probably not. No. I mean, yeah, you can really consider it for like a counter strategy. You can consider it for a, equipment strategy too. But like typically it'd be like, no, you'd want those like enchantment type synergies with this. Moving on. Charitable Levy, an enchantment for 1 and a white. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. Me! mean? Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, put a collection counter on Charitable Levy. Then if there are 3 or more collection counters on it, sacrifice it. If you do, draw a card. You may search life for a plane, so battlefield tap, then shuffle. This is kind of like a weird, like, delayed rampant growth in a way, because if you just look at it in that way, it's like, okay, it's 2 mana. Eventually, it's going to go get me a plains. There is, like, no may, right? Again, you have to, when there are 3 or more collection counters, you have to sacrifice it. But it's also like a rampant growth that it only gets a plains, so it's not any basic land. But it also lets you draw a card to replace this card, too, which is quite nice. So, yeah, I mean, this is quite good. If you're in a mono-white deck, you're like, yes, please. Unless, like, you're all non-creature spell mono-white. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a temporary taxing effect in a way. So, yeah, if you're playing with a deck that has a decent amount of creatures that doesn't have access to green ramp, probably consider this one. Unless your friends are like, that player has played a taxing effect and we don't like them anymore. Even though it only taxes 3 times. But we don't like them anymore. All right, take them out. Moving on. Expel the Unworthy. Sorcery for 1 and a white. Kicker for 2 and a white. Choose target creature with mana value 3 or less. If the spell is kicked, instead choose target creature. Exile the chosen creature, then its controller gains life with its mana value. Much worse, Swords to Plowshares. That's basically it, right? Okay. Moving on. Static Prison, an enchantment for a single white mana enters the battlefield. Exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. You get 200 counters. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, sacrifice Static Prison unless you pay a single energy. Here's the thing. Are you in an energy deck? Cool. Are you in a proliferate deck, if I could talk? Cool. If not, this is a get rid of something for 2 turns kind of spell. Okay? That's just kind of what it is. I guess, I mean, and again, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, so that's the first time it turns. So you're fine casting on the first turn, right? It's not like, oh, I cast it after combat. Don't worry about that. Yeah, if you want to temporarily get rid of something, and it is an opponent control, so it can't be like, okay, like, I'd like to blink my thing in 2 turns. Cool. No. It has to be an opponent controls. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but again, if you really want to, like, permanently get rid of that thing, you need to ensure that you have either other ways to make energy, or you've got proliferate effects. There you go. Next up, Deem Inferior. This is some weird, cool art. Sorcery for 3 and a blue. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each card you've drawn this turn, so it costs as little as single blue mana. The other target non-land permanent puts into the library second from the top or bottom. Again, that is that player's choice. It is not your choice, unfortunately, or just be like, bottom, so you don't get it back, like ever, most likely. Yeah. And sorcery speed is the problem, I guess. Again, the surprise on cards can see a lot of play in Commander. Moving on. Depth Defiler. I defile you, depths. Cool. Eldrazi for 3/5 for 3 blue. Devoid no color. Kicker for a single colorless mana. When you cast a spell, choose 1. If it was kicked, choose both instead. Bounce a creature back to its owner's hand, or target player draws 2 cards and discards a card. I mean, maybe Eldrazi Tribal, but maybe not. Drawing 2, discarding 1 for 6 mana in total is not all that great. I guess it'd be 5 mana, because you can get both. Bouncing a creature and drawing 2, discarding 1 for 6 mana. It's just okay. Moving on. Emrakul's Messenger. Hello, Emrakul. Yes, you have a message. Oh, thank you. 2/1 Eldrazi Fairy Rogue with Devoid and Flying for 1 and a blue. When you draw your second card each turn, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. That's quite nice. Again, draw your second card each and every single turn, not just your own. So if you can, with each tripper on the table, draw. I mean, if you've got the right kind of a deck where you've got like set up ways to draw extra cards each turn, or if you've got like a cantripping kind of deck, you could have this activate 4 times with each tripper on the table potentially. I mean, that's a lot of setup to do so, but still, that's like 4 additional creatures. That's 4 free mana to work with essentially. So yeah, you can do a lot of good things with this. I mean, token production, when it comes to like, if you've got a lot of other like second draw triggers, which are starting to make more and more of these, like if you got a lot of those in your deck already, this is a good like potential like, not ritual, but like temporary ramp advantage for you. So yeah, I can see this one seeing a decent amount of play. I mean, fairy decks could consider it as well. Rogue decks consider it too. Again, it is a base, so typically rogue decks like to get through. And Eldrazi decks, yes, could consider it too. So it's a very interesting card. Yeah, it could be either utilized in tribal decks, or again, when it comes to like ones that can draw a lot of cards throughout the game on multiple turns, not just their own, and also want to utilize those creatures. Moving on. Utter insignificance. Aww. Enchantment Aura with Flash, enchant creature for 1/8 blue mana. Enchant creatures loses all abilities and has base power toughness 1/1. Pay 2 and a colorless exile enchant creature. Interesting. So this seems pretty good for its cost at just 2 mana. It's somewhat similar to, again, like Darksteel Mutation, where that's like 0/1 indestructible. So you like base and lose all abilities. This one isn't quite that because, again, like that opponent can more easily get rid of that creature. It's not just like, oh, it's indestructible, I can't just like swing another opponent. No, this, they could potentially make a deal with another player and be like, hey, my commander, which is usually what you'd use the Sonic commander, you'd typically be like, okay, your deck revolves around your commander. For 2 mana now, your commander is nothing. It is a 1/1 insignificant little creature that does nothing. The problem is you can still attack and block, so again, they could make a deal with another opponent and be like, hey, if you block my little 1/1 nothing commander thing so I can get it back to the command zone and replay it, I'll do this for you. If you can make other players at the table agree ahead of time that, hey, that commander is a huge issue, do not block that thing, or a swing at that player with creatures to take it out, great. You can try to make those deals ahead of time. And also, like, you can just exile the enchant creature becomes a problem as well for whatever reason as well. So there you go. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's going to be, it's a decent card, obviously. Being able to flash hit it is quite nice. So out of nowhere, you can be like, they're like, I'm swinging with my amazing commander, ha ha, and you're like, it is a 1/1 now that does nothing. Yay. Okay, moving on. Crabomination. That's funny. Crabomination. A 5/5 crab demon for 4 black. Emerge from an artifact. So for 5 black, you can cast it by sacrificing an artifact and paying the emerge cost to respect the effect's mana value. Is this the first time that we're seeing emerge from artifact? Please let me know in the comments below. Or have we seen that before? Maybe emerge from creatures, typically what we see. Just emerge. Anyways. Enters the battlefield. Target opponent exiles the top of their library. The top card of their library, a card at random from their graveyard, and a card at random from their hand. You may cast a spell for one of the cards exiles without opponent's mana cost. Yeah, that's quite nice. So being able to get something for free again, it is only one of those things you're going to cast for free, but being able to get the top library, which again is completely random. The other ones are random, obviously, but like if you're late in the game, players only have a couple cards in their hand. They're probably pretty good cards. You're probably going to hit something pretty nice. Graveyards, again, more of a crapshoot, but again, like if you get rid of a lot of their graveyard and they have certain things in it, yeah. I mean, so this is just like a more like chaotically good card. Could go in Demon Tribal. Obviously, with artifacts, deck could be like a free card. Not free, but I mean, it could be, I guess, if you have artifacts that do black pips in them, but for the most part, it'd be like 2 mana maybe at the most. So there you go. A pretty interesting card indeed. Crab Tribal, too, if that's a thing. Moving on. The creation of Avacyn. This one's really interesting. For 1 black, we have a Saga. The first part of the Saga is search life for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. The second one is you turn it face up. If it's a creature card, you lose life equal to its mana value. Oh no! So all bad things so far. The third part, though, makes up for this. You may put the exile card on the battlefield if it's a creature card. If you don't put on the battlefield, put it in someone's hand. So it can be like a 3 mana delayed tutor in a way, where you don't even have to lose life on it, right? If you go get any non-creature card, then you wait 3 turns, you then got it in your hand. That is, I mean, overcosted compared to like one very good tutor. I mean, a couple good tutors, but still like your typical like Diabolic tutor are going to be like 4 mana. That being said, yeah, this has to like stay in play the whole time. Like if an opponent destroys this after the first or second time, then you're like, oh, okay, I just exiled one of my best cards in my deck and it's gone now. And if it was a creature, you just lost life for that too. That being said, obviously, if you do pick a creature, being able to just cheat a creature into play is quite nice. That being said, once you flip it up, your opponents know what it is, and essentially, if they have removal, they might be like, oh, you just got Blightsteel Colossus or whatever? No. Destroy that. You just lost 12 life or whatever, 11. How much Blightsteel cost? Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a risk to it. I like the design of it, but if you have ways to play with those counters, if you've got ways to proliferate, there you go. That's a really good spot for this kind of a card where you can like speed that process up. Like first turn you get this down, you could probably still get actually the actual creature out right away as well. So this can be a very good one, again, for a Saga deck, or yeah, definitely for a proliferate type deck. Moving on. Eviscerator's Insight, an instant for 1 and a black. This cost cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards. So again, there's a lot of cards that kind of play in this same lane. Typically these days they're at 1 mana though, although not all of them have sacrifice an artifact instead typically, which is quite nice again because there's a lot of artifact tokens running around these days. But still, 2 mana instant speed, draw 2 is very nice, and of course for decks that actually want to sacrifice creatures like Aristocrat style, that's really, really good. What makes this even better though is I believe this is the first time we're seeing like this on one of these types of, sacrifice draw cards, flashback. So we can flash this back for 4 and 8 black. That's quite nice. So yeah, if you're already utilizing these types of cards, I would definitely consider this one. I mean, this one's just strictly better than some of the older ones that are like at 2 mana doing something like this, or just 2 mana, sacrifice a creature, draw 2. Those exist. This one is, and it's instant versus, some of them are sorcery too. So yeah, like Village Rites types cards, I guess I should say. But yes, being able to flash this back is quite nice. Being able to get like extra card draw later in the game, extra sacrifice later in the game. That's really nice. Moving on, Grave Dig. I love this because Grave Digger is the card. This is Grave Dig. It's half as much and does half the many things. But you can also entwine it to get exactly Grave Digger. A sorcery for 1 and a black, choose 1. Target player creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Grave Digger. Return target creature card from your grave to your hand. That was the ETB on Grave Digger. Still is, I guess. Entwine 2, so you can choose both. So that's pretty clever. They just like split it up so you can get one or the other. How useful is this? I mean, if you've got like a lot of creature recursion, I guess, or maybe for like a zombie tribal deck, but like zombie tribal decks have a lot of options, and this probably isn't a very good one, just making 1 zombie token for 2 mana. Though if you were like, okay, like I keep getting like my best creatures dealt with, and for whatever reason in my zombie deck I don't have ways to get them back, you probably should. Yeah. Being able to also do that. It's nice that it's flexible, but yeah, I don't know how much place we're willing to see versus just being like a kitschy fun card. Moving on, Lethal Throwdown. I'm falling and punching. Cool. Sorcery for a single black mana. Additional cost, cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, or sacrifice a modified creature. So that is on costing the spell. I can't talk. Yeah, you have to sacrifice, again, either a creature or a modified creature. So if you have a modified creature and you want to sacrifice that, you're going to get something better. So target creature or planeswalker, if the modified creature was sacrificed, if the modified creature was sacrificed, that's weird. That if the creature was modified and was sacrificed, I don't know how they're wording that. I mean, they're cutting some words out. I like that, but okay. Draw a card. If the modified creature was sacrificed. If A? Want to be A, not the? I don't know. Anyways, being able to 1 mana replace it, that's quite nice. I mean, this is just what, bone shards, but like better, because it gives you that option to, if you sacrifice a modified creature, again, had an equipment on it. Skull Clamp would be lovely, right? You'd be like, oh yeah, it's modified. Ha, I draw 3 now. My auras, obviously, or just a +1 counter, or any kind of a counter on it. Yeah, being able to just make this into a cantrip is quite nice on top of being a removal spell. Obviously, if you have those kind of bone shard type cards in your deck, you have creature fodder that you're going to sacrifice, whether you're an aristocrat style deck or a go wide strategy. Yeah, definitely consider this kind of a card. Next up, Mindless Conscription. Let's go that way. Is that like a mountain of zombies? That's a mountain of zombies. Enchantment for 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, and when you draw your 3rd card each turn, amass zombies 3. 3rd card each turn. So we have seen a lot of like when you draw your 2nd card each turn. But this one's like, no, let's take it a step further. All right, you need to really draw things, like draw a lot of things. That's quite interesting. Again, like amass, yeah, it's an interesting mechanic, but it's one that's like, it's inherently worse than it could have been because it goes tall versus wide. You get a zombie army and you get 3 counters on it. Cool. Yes. But like then you're like, okay, I did it again. Now it's a 6/6. No, it's 9/9. It's not bad. And it's an interesting card. It does take a lot to draw all that. And again, versus the other one we were talking about earlier with that Eldrazi Fairy, you're going wide. This one's going tall. I'd rather go wide than tall in the vast majority of circumstances. Where is this going to see play? I'm not sure. It's interesting, though. Yeah, I mean, like, maybe a zombie deck could utilize it. One that I can draw a lot of cards with it. Sure. Moving on. Quest for the Necropolis. Enchant for a single black mana landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under control, you get a quest counter on this. By paying 5 and a black, you sacrifice it. Put target creature card from a graveyard on the battlefield under control. It's going to cost 1 less to activate for each quest counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is reanimation from any graveyard again. Obviously, keep that in mind, because like some are just like, no, just your own graveyard. No, this is any graveyard, a graveyard. Quite nice. I mean, if you were to just pay the entire amount without any landfall triggers, then you're like, okay, I paid 7 mana to reanimate something. That'd be terrible, obviously. But yeah, if you're in any kind of a landfall synergistic deck, or again, if you literally just have like a bunch of proliferates, Great. That works really good in this too, because this can be a 2 mana, reanimate any creature. No downside other than sorcery speed, I guess, in that this like stays in play. An opponent could deal with it. So again, like you can't respond to an opponent like destroying this and be like, I activate. Oh, I know it's sorcery speed. I can't do that. So yes, being able to just get a very low to the ground reanimation effect can be great. You can just keep on in play. Like turn 1, play this if it's in your hand, then you just like keep it down. Throughout the game, you're playing lands, you're doing whatever, you're getting counters on this, and then later on, you're like, oh, a really good creature hit the graveyard last turn. Cool. Yeah, I'll pay 1, and that's mine now. So it'd be quite good. I guess reanimation strategy to consider it. Again, landfall, again, proliferate, those types of strategies. Next up, Aether Revolt. I always find it funny. I had to look this one up because I find it funny when they name something after the set, but like they do it post with this one. Like, what was the one we got? Like the, oh gosh, the really broken one that breaks with Shalyn Halar. Gosh, I'm forgetting a whole set's name now. March of the Machine. Is that the one? No. Whichever one has Elish Dorn's head on it. Enchantment for 2 red. That one happened during this set. As long as a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. Now, is it March of the Machine? I can't remember what that one is. Anyway, it's going to bug me for the rest of this episode. As long as a permanent, let me know in the comments below. You control left the battlefield this turn. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or permanent opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Whenever you get 1 or more energy, it deals that much damage to any target. So, there's 2 things to consider with this one. Are you playing an energy deck? If you are, great. That last part is, I mean, probably has some ways to go infinite, I would assume. I mean, maybe some like really janky ways. Like there's like one, like when you're gaining life, you're gaining energy. I guess if you were to like turn this into a creature somehow and then give it lifelink, there you go. There's a very roundabout way to go infinite with this. But yes, I mean, the first part is more likely what you would really want with this, like for most decks. Again, most decks are not energy decks. Do you have ways to ensure that you can activate this? Because if you do, and you had a permanent leave the battlefield this turn, great. If you don't, then it's useless. Obviously. An extra 2 damage is quite nice. Again, only non-combat, so keep that in mind. But yeah, if you've got ways to sacrifice, again, like a treasure will meet this requirement again. As long as a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, that is a permanent. That's why things get a little kind of confusing-ish when it's like a permanent card. It's like, that's not a token. Okay, not a token. Why don't you say like non-token permanent? Okay. But yes, if you do sacrifice a treasure, if you have anything else to the battlefield, cool. Now all of a sudden this activates and your group slug type synergies are crazy good. If you're not using non-combat damage, then don't worry about this. If you're not using energy deck, don't worry about this. Next up, Eldrazi Linebreaker. This is one that I couldn't remember if there was a leak on this or not, so my apologies. And I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Any cards that were already previously leaked that I talked about, or any reprints in this set are going to be at the end of the episode. So there you go. A 3/3 Eldrazi with Devoid and Trample for 3 mana. Though I probably should read that because it's like 1 colorless and a red. Really weird mana cost. Beginning of combat, your turn, target creature control gains haste, gets plus X plus 0 until turn X. Number Eldrazi control. Eldrazi Tribal's like, yay! Any other deck is probably like, probably not. Probably not. I guess this can give itself haste, which is interesting. But yeah, Shapeshifter Tribal, I guess. Changeling Tribal, I should say. Could do it as well. Moving on. Furnace Hellkite. A 5/5 dragon for 7 mana in red. Affinity for artifacts. So it's going to cost 1 less cast for each artifact you control. As low as just 2 mana. Flying. Fire breathing. Not really much to it. If you got an artifact deck and you really care about dragons, cool. If not, no. Moving on. Ghostfire Slice. Really cool art. Instant for 2 and a red. Devoid. 2 less cast if an opponent controls a multicolored permanent. In Commander, it's pretty much a guarantee. I mean, it's not a guarantee, I should say. But at a certain point, most likely, unless you're playing it's all monocolored decks out there, you're gonna have at least 1 multicolored permanent in play. Especially since, like, looking at, like, the top 12, just out of the top 20, I believe, of the most popular commanders out there right now, I think Krenko might be the only one that's not multicolor. So there you go. I might be wrong. Maybe like Ghost Shintai technically doesn't count as a multicolor, but yeah, okay, anyways. A lot are multicolor. Typically, commanders are multicolor. 4 damage any target. Cool. So this is like either a overly costed, slightly better lightning bolt, like, 4 damage, or it is lightning bolt costed, 4 damage any target. It also gets around pro red. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, if you've got a burn deck in Commander, which there are more commanders these days that do burn things, yeah, great. If not, no. Okay, next up, Party Thrasher. A 1/4 Lizard Wizard. That might be my favorite creature combination. Creature type combination. For 1 and a red. Non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke. Hey, Prosper players, you got another card. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You'll play that card this turn. So, yeah, I mean, this is not only additional potential temporary card. It's not advantage, because it is like you do have to discard 1 card. You get to pick from the top 2 to impulse draw 1. And it is play, not cast, so you can play a land from there as well. But yeah, this can give all your things Convoke that you're casting from exile, which I shouldn't just say like just Prosper, but yeah, impulse draw obviously is big for that. Also, gosh, I mean, plot doesn't really matter because you're getting those for free. Why am I slipping up on the one that was before plot, the one that was in, oh my gosh, now I'm really slipping on it. Whatever plot was based off of before. That one where you're like, ah, yes, I will put this over here and play it later for cheaper. That thing. You know what I'm talking about. Comment below. It is early, okay? My apologies right now. Moving on. Reiterating Bolt. Cool. Sorcery for 1 and a red. Replicate. Pay 3 energy. 3 damage target creature or planeswalker. Kaldheim. It's in Kaldheim. What is that one? Ah! What is that one? It's like oracling, not oracling, but you know what I mean. Okay. Oh, I'm really failing this morning. Okay. You can replicate with energy. It's nice to be able to deal damage to creatures and planeswalkers. Do you have an energy deck? Do you care about damaging planeswalkers and creatures? If not, no. Moving on. Birthing Ritual. Enchantment for 1 and a green at the beginning of your end step. If you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card mana value X less from among those cards on the battlefield. Rex is 1+ each sacrifice creature's mana value. Put the rest behind your library in random order. Interesting. So it's kind of like Birthing Pod, but much more fixed. And like free repeat. So yeah, it's a very interesting way to go about it. If you got a creature heavy deck with a lot of creatures at like different mana values, this could be very, very good. Obviously, I mean, I guess maybe not even like a lot of different mana values, but like different mana values within a certain chunk, maybe. So like you can go from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 pretty easily. If you've got like, I've got 1 through 11 in my deck and a lot at each. It's like, what are the chances that you actually hit the next one that you need with those 7 cards? Unless you get ways to tutor creatures up to the top. This is good, I think, for like, again, a really heavy creature-based strategy. You get a lot of things. I mean, like early on, you get a lot of value just throughout the game. Just going, okay, I'm going from 1 to the next, 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 to the next. And just getting a ton of value like Birthing Pod, but again, without paying for it. That being said, there are going to be whiffs with this, which is like Birthing Pod, there aren't whiffs. Unless you like just forgot in your deck you didn't have something at that mana value, I guess. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. We'll see how this one plays out. Like, I think it's like a big, like, splashy fun card, but is it all that good in Commander outside of, like, being able to tutor things on top of your library? Probably not. I mean, it's good. It's just not as good as people might think. Next up, Colossal Dread Mask. Okay, I can't believe they did this one. So this is one. It's like, there was Colossal Eldrazi Maw, which I believe is fake. I've confirmed to be fake. Let me know in the comments below if you know on that. It's like, okay, that's hilarious, but yeah, okay, that's probably fake. This one, it's real. It's somehow real. I love this. Obviously, based off Colossal Dreadmaw, if I could talk. Artifact equipment for exactly Colossal Dreadmaw's amount. For green. Living weapon. So essentially, yes, it is going to be a Colossal Dreadmaw. Equipped creature gets +6/+6. Has trample. The only difference, I guess, is that it's not. They should have like changed it somehow so it's like a dinosaur living weapon. I don't know. Or enchant creature is also a dinosaur. That would have fixed it. Because, like, it is a Phyrexian Germ. It's just a 6/6 trampling Phyrexian Germ that is not a dinosaur, unfortunately. So if you've got, like, your Colossal Dreadmaw, like, dinosaur deck, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely in there for flavor, but it's also not a dinosaur. It should have been equipped creature gets +6/+6 as trample and is a dinosaur to other types. Equipped for 3 green. I mean, other than this being a joke card that you could include in a deck, be like, ha ha ha. Where does this have a home? I don't know if it does. Really? Like, if you've got, like, free equip? Yes, absolutely. If you got ways to freely equip something, great. But 5 mana to equip something is a ton. I mean, +6/+6 trample is very nice. And again, like, it's not like you're not getting anything to start. At 6 mana, you are getting a 6/6 trampler. Which typically isn't all that good in Commander, obviously, because it's like, oh, okay, you paid 6 for that? All right, I paid 4 for my 6/6 Trampler, and it also has all these other things. Yeah. It's interesting. It's funny. Yeah. Moving on. Fanatic of Ronas, a 1/4 Snake Druid for 2 mana in green. Tap for a green. Tap for 4 mana. Tap to add green, 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 green. Actively if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. This is absurd low to the ground early ramp. Especially if you've got a commander that's pretty low to the ground that has 4 or more power. Yeah. You are going to get 4 mana out of this 2 mana creature quite quickly. And of course, with that, like, this goes infinite with all the things it goes infinite with. You know, all those other ones are like, if this creature taps for 3 or more, or 4 or more, whatever, like Sword of the Perins, Umbral Mantle, I believe, as well. Those kind of things. Yeah, this can wait for those. Also, Eternalize on this, so this can just, you know, automatically, if it's in your graveyard, you can just Eternalize it, and then it's like a Balm versus Eternalize. This one is the 4/4. You make a 4/4, and of course, that would meet that 4 power requirement. So, it's a very, 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 very good mana dork. Very good mana dork. Druid Tribal obviously can utilize it. Snake as well. But yeah, very good mana dork. If you don't care that much about the fixing, definitely consider this one. If you're like in a mono green stompy deck with like a bunch of big creatures, you're like, yeah, get this one out too. Tap for 4 mana on turn 3. Get more big creatures out. Hit harder. And then it gets dealt with and you're like, that's okay. You're coming back as a bigger creature and still tapping for mana. Quite nice. Moving on. Fangs of Colonia. A sorcery for 1 and a green. You can overload it, though, for 6 mana. Put a counter on target creature you control, then double the number of counters on each creature that had a counter put on it this way. I just want to mention that I do shorthand most of the time, saying +1/+1 counter, because it's harder to say quickly, to just counter. Yeah, that's quite good. Are you in a counters build? Yes. Then do that. Then do that. This is a very, very good card for those builds. Like, even if your commander just deals with counters too, be able to get an extra counter on it and then double that, that's great for just 2 mana. But other than that, it's like, oh, you have like counters on all your things. Cool. Overload this for 6 mana and get an additional counter and everything, and then double that. Lovely. Yeah, this can be really, really, really good. It is sorcery speed, thank goodness, so it's not like, oh, I got through in combat, all of a sudden my creatures are much, much, much bigger. So yeah, if you have a +1 counter synergies or strategy, or if your commander depends on having counters or whatever, can be quite good with that. Moving on, Golden Tail Trainer. That's a lie. Its tail's not gold. Lies. 1/3 Fox Samurai for 3 mana in Selesnya. Our aura and equipment spells you cast cost X less to cast for X's Golden Tail Trainer's power. Are you in an aura or equipment deck? You want this. You want this a lot. Whenever it attacks other modified creatures you control, get +X/+X on turn. X is its power. This is very, very good. This is like a combination of like a couple of other cards in the past, and this is like all the best parts of it. And it's a Fox Samurai, which is quite cool. But yes, typically in aura or equipment X, you've got aura or equipment that can pump this power, meaning that you can then reduce the cost of your future auras and equipment. Especially if you're in an equipment deck, this is like, hey, do you want your equipment to cost 0? I mean, yeah, there are equipment out there that do have, you know, green or white pips in them or whatever. That doesn't matter as much. I mean, but most of your equipment are going to be, not colorless, but generic mana. So you're going to be like, oh, I cast that for free. I cast that for free. There's probably some infinite combinations you can do with this. Regardless, reducing the cost of those to nothing or near nothing is amazing, is incredible. Enchantress decks will love this as well. And on top of that, again, this can be a finisher for you too. It's like, oh, okay, like I supercharge pump this one, get a ton of power on it, reduce the cost of all my things, get my other creatures in play, whatever. I mean, they have to be modified, but again, you've got a core or you got equipment. And then swing with this to pump all my other things to oblivion. Yeah, that's quite nice. So keep that in mind. It is quite good. Next up, Horrid Shadow Spinner, a 2/3 with lifelink for 3 mana in Dimir. Whenever it attacks, you may draw cards equal to its power if you discard that many cards. Interesting. Yeah. Horror Tribal. Maybe. Probably. Yes. Do you also really care about... I mean, if you have ways to pump this, obviously it's much, much better. You have to throw it into danger to actually get that trigger, obviously. But, hey, if you've got a lot of power on it, obviously you're just drawing through your deck even further. So that's great. A lot of... I guess that would be draw, then discard, so that's loot versus rummage. I want to make sure I wasn't messing that up. But yeah, a giant rummage effect can be quite nice. Fairy Judge's Insight, Thought Reflection, ways to double this up as well if you got those in the deck. Cool. Anyways, moving on. Don't know why this one's blurry. Invert Polarity. Instant for 3 mana in Izzet. Choose target spell, then flip a coin. If you win the flip, gain control of that spell and choose targets for the spell. If you lose the flip, counter that spell. I mean, okay. this is just on the side, real quick, just quick soapbox. I miss the days when flipping coins was always a really good thing or a really bad thing. Okay? I don't like the, well, you get one really good thing and then one still good thing. I prefer the days when it's like a risk. There's no risk to flipping this coin. This either you overpaid for a counter spell slightly, or you get to steal a spell for 3 mana, which is really, 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 really good. So yeah, I mean, like, is every deck gonna want this? No. But is it spicy and game-changing when it works out for you? Absolutely. Being able to just steal any spell for 3 mana? Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really good. And there's no restriction on what kind of spell it has to be. It's like non-creature spell. No, if your opponent casts their commander, you're like, oh, now that's mine. Thank you. Or like, oh, darn, I didn't get to steal it. Well, I guess I countered it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess like coin flipping decks, definitely want to consider this one, of course. Any kind of like, is it chaos decks, I guess, really? Or is it theft decks in that way? Is it like thieving spells? And yeah, of course, if you got ways to manipulate, coins, essentially like Kark's Thumb, yeah, definitely consider this one. Moving on to not monster. 2/2 core rogue for 4 mana. And Orzhov, don't know why this one's blurry either. My apologies. Some of these just showed up blurry in some of the previews. Core rogue, throw a line as the adventure for 2 mana Orzhov. Distribute 2 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. Lifelink. Whenever their modified creature control dies, put 2 counters on Ondu Knotmaster. It's pretty specific. I guess if you have like a lot of like, if you got like a counters strategy in Orzhov, sure. If not, no. Planar Genesis, instant for Simic colors. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them on the battlefield tapped. If you don't put a card from among them in your hand, put the rest of them on your library in a random order. Interesting. This is very interesting on where this one plays because it's kind of like Growth Spiral-esque. Again, instant speed, same colors, same cost. But like, you've got a different way to hit the land, right? Like you can hit the land off the top of your library, off the top 4, which mathematically you are probably decently likely to hit one. Like again, if like 30, 3, 37, whatever it is, number of lands are in your deck, chances are decently likely you'll hit one. And again, there's like no whiffing on this too. Like, okay, if you whiff that, you still get a card in your hand. So it's either like a ramp spell that is pretty specific on, I mean, you don't get to choose kind of what land you're hitting. Like, oh, I got a forest or I got an island. You're probably happy either way for the most part, but you don't get to like fix your mana as much. Although if you hit a command tower, like, yay, it's better than rampant growth in that way, I guess. It's interesting to see where this one will play. It is good to still be like, okay, if you whiff, you still get a card off the top 4, the best card of the top 4 in your hand. Again, it's speed for 2 mana. We'll see if this one plays. Like, I mean, I think landfall decks will definitely consider something like this. Next up, Idol of False Gods. Is this anything like Temple of False God? Okay, here we go. Kindred Artifact Eldrazi for 2 mana. I haven't read this one yet. For 1 and a colorless tap, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice creature. Add colorless. Whenever an Eldrazi control dies, put a counter on it. As long as it has got 8 or more counters on it, it's a 0/0 creature with Annihilator too. Okay, so like you can build up an Eldrazi essentially with this one. That's interesting. Yeah, for Eldrazi Tribal, maybe. Not bad. Other than that, I mean, it is like a token producer, which is nice. It's like, you are getting that mana back, too. Like, you're getting 1 mana back. You're, like, temporarily ramping with those creatures. You do need colorless to actually, like, really consider this one, though, because obviously you don't have a lot of colors. You can't even activate it. Moving on. Metastatic Evangel. Let me know in the comments below. I believe this one is probably in the main set. Not sure why they showed off the arena version of it, but I believe this is actually being printed as well. But let me know if I'm wrong on that. 3/1 Phyrexian Human Cleric for 2 mana in white. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield to control, proliferate. That seems very good. I'm sure there's some infinite combos with that too, maybe? I mean, like, probably 3-card combos at least, but there's maybe, it's probably not a 2-card combo. But there's probably definitely 3-card combos out there you can utilize. Very, very, very good. I'm glad that it's not like any creature coming into play, because that would be much more broken. Like, non-token is needed on this. Yeah, it seems really good. If you have a proliferate type strategy, if you've got a deck that has a bunch of counters, cool. Being able to just get creatures in play. If you've got an infect deck, ow. Opponent's like, oh, okay, well, it's only one poison counter on me. Oh, no, they have a creature card. Oh, another creature card to play. Oh, no, they have a blink deck. It's a blink deck with infect. Yeah, blink obviously works really well with this. Like, if you can, like, blink your entire board, you blink all your army, and then they come back into play and like, oh, I proliferate this many times. Lots of good things can happen. It seems very, very, very good. Sure, I guess Phyrexian, Human, and Cleric Tribe will consider it too. Next up, Monumental Stone Row, a land that enters battlefield. Tap unless you control a planes. Tap for a white mana. 2 white, tap look at top card, 5 cards in your library, and move a historic card from among them, put in your hand. The rest of your library in random order. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're running an artifact deck, amazing. I mean, artifacts or legendaries, I guess Sagas too. So any of those, obviously. I'm not going to say it's an auto-include, but, like, if you've got, like, lower to the ground amount of colors, like, if you've got, like, an mono-white artifact deck, you're like, oh my gosh, the best card ever! The land that comes into play on tap the vast majority of the time in your mono-white deck. And also, you get, like, a lot of, again, great card selection. Top 5, getting 1 card out of those in your hand, that's some great card selection. And, again, if you're running, like, artifacts, legendaries, sagas, whatever it is specifically, it seems like a very good card for those decks. Next up, Ral and the Implicit Maze. Oh, yes. That implicitly looks like a maze. I don't know. Okay, 5 mana in red. First one deals 2 damage each creature and planeswalker your opponent's control. Low to the ground board wipe. That's nice. Obviously, if you have, like, damage doublers, damage triplers, it can be even better. Second one, you may discard a card. If you do exile top 2 cards of your library, you may play them until your next turn. So, again, sacrificing permanent card advantage, I guess, with 1 card for temporary card advantage that is greater. Again, 2 cards. It is play. It is not cast, so you can play lands. Third one is create a Spellgorger weird token. That is really weird. It's a 2 and a red, 2/2 weird creature token with whenever you cast a creature spell, put a counter on it. This seems like a very incredibly specific card that probably really isn't all that great in Commander for the most part. Like, if you got, like, a Saga deck, you're like, yeah, the Saga's great, cool. But other than that, it's like, it's very, very specific on what it wants to do. Next up. Okay, and the card, this is the last out of all of the, other than the ones that have already been leaked, and I talked about in previous episodes, or the ones that are reprints as well. That's at the end of the episode, so keep that in mind. Stay tuned for that. This is what I'm doing a quick take on because this is an absurd commander. This is one that's maybe a little problematic because they didn't really limit it too much. I mean, they limited it, but not really-ish. Here we go. Nadu? I'm going to go with Nadu. Winged Wisdom, a 3/4 bird wizard with flying that is in 3 mana Simic. Low the ground Simic commander. Here we go. Creatures you control have. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it in your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. Keep in mind, this triggers only twice. You're like, how crazy can that be, though? It only triggers twice each turn. Oh, per creature. Per creature. It triggers twice each turn per creature because the creatures have that. It's not like this commander just has like, oh no, I only trigger twice each turn. It's like, no. Every creature gets this that you have. Token or non-token, doesn't matter. They all get this, and that triggers twice each turn, which means that if you have, let's say, you're in Simic, you probably got crazy ways to make a bunch of creatures, right? And the landfall strangers too, like Zendikar's Royal kind of things, right? Cool, let's say you have 10 creatures. Potentially, you could have this triggered 20 times to be able to get, again, either a land into play directly or a card advantage in your hand. Okay, there's also some broken combo-y things that you can do this quite easily, quite effectively, quite efficiently. Even if you're not comboing with it, that is very powerful. Low to the ground, absurd amounts of potential card advantage and selection. Yeah, there's ways to use and abuse this. And I want to thank and also blame Eddie and Alec in the comments below because they pointed out some crazy things that you can do with this. With all that said, let's jump in the quick take talking about cards that are within my budget, cards outside of my budget, work really well with this one, ones that you should be considering. And yeah, if you're interested in this crazy commander, make sure you check out that card listing in the description below because there's crazy things that you can do with this. And here we go. Okay, let's start things off with the budget buys. And this might not have been the first card that you expected to see, but again, blame Eddie, blame Alec in the comments below. Blame Eric while you're at it too for fun. But yes. Here we go. Because, again, the way that it's worded, it's just like whenever anything you have that targets it from a spell or ability, right? So, cool. Grafted Wargear. Let's go with this one. Artifact equipment for 3 mana. Equip creatures +3/+2. Whenever it becomes unattached from a permanent, sacrifice that permanent, equip 0. So, I have used this before, like in like Aristocrat-style decks, where it's like, it's a free sacrifice outlet in a very weird way. It's like, I attach to that. I move it to attach to that now. That sacrifice, cool. Yes, this one, though, is just, hey, okay, I can attach for free to a creature. So, there's only so many ways to do that. And when you're doing that again, it's attaching to target creature. It does target equipment, do target. Because of that, again, your commander's thing that it gives to all of the creatures triggers. And you get to, again, either land into play or card in the hand. Great. Now, you would say with this one, like, oh, well, you know, if you moved it to another one, you have to sacrifice that. And that's true. Might still be worth it if you're, like, making a bunch of creature tokens like Zendikar's Royal. Again, like, oh, I got a land. Cool, cool. I'm making another one. I'll move this over there. You could keep doing that if you keep hitting lands, obviously. That being said, there's a little card called Cowardice, which is always fun. It's like, I'm running away. I don't want to do anything. Enchantment for 5 mana. Whenever a creature comes the target of a spell or ability, turn that creature to its owner's hand. Oh, I mean, it does remind you. You don't really need that, I guess, but it won't be affected by spell or ability. Yeah, so here's the thing. If you move Crafted War Gear to a creature, then it's like, oh, okay. Oh, wait, I didn't actually attach because it ran away. Okay, there's no sacrificing it then because it wasn't attached in the first place, so it never unattached. So you can just keep, like, bouncing a creature back to your hand and then replaying it and then reattaching it. And that does cost mana. I mean, unless you're playing, like, Ornithopter. So a 0/2 Thopter for 0 mana. Flying. Cost 0, so I guess with that you could just go, oh, okay, I play my Ornithopter. I attached my Grafted War Gear. Oh, that doesn't attach? Oh, no. Because Cowardice says it bounces back. So you get to get the trigger from your commander. Well, the commander gave the Thopter. Again, land into battlefield or card in your hand. Cool. Oh, I play my Ornithopter again. I do it again. I do it again. I do it again. Basically, draw your entire library, get all your lands from your library into play. Yep. Okay, now is that a little more convoluted? Yes. But also, there are other cards out there that are less convoluted that will get to the pricier picks. Because again, when it comes to like 0 mana equip costs, typically those are in the more expensive cards. Typically. That being said, still, Seeker of Skybreak, cards like this. 2/1 Elf. That might have something else, but again, it's an old card, and I don't have the Oracle text in front of me. 4/1 in a green, tap, untap target creature. It might be like a Scout. I don't know. Elf, Scout. Let's just go with that. It's probably just an Elf. Untap target creature. It does not say another creature, another target creature. It's just it. You can untap it with itself, if that makes any sense. So you tap this, it untaps itself. Oh, okay, cool. I'll do that again. Now, obviously, if the commander did not limit this, if Nadu did not limit it to just 2 turns or 2 times per creature, you could just keep doing this and do your entire deck. That being said, still just being able to activate this twice, either draw 2 cards or get 2 lands into play, or 1 and 1 or whatever it is very, very good. Every single turn. Every single turn. Again, on your opponent's turns as well. I don't believe, correct me in the comments below, but I don't believe Nadu said like only during your turn. I think it's like any time. So like, with each trip around the table, just because you have this in play, that would be 8 potential card advantage / ramp combination of the 2. Gross. And there's other ones out there like untap target, like Tidewater Minion. I think that's one too. Like untap target permanent. You know, there's a Federal Alchemist that's also more expensive that does the exact same thing. This can be again any like repeatable kind of targeting effect. Yeah, because it allows you to use abilities is pretty crazy. Also, creatures that care about getting targeted are nice too. IV Lethal Spell Thief, a 2/1 fairy rogue for 2 mana in Simic flying. Whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy, you may copy the spell, copy targets Ivy. I believe copies would work as well, because it doesn't say anything about, like, you know, when it's cast. So, essentially, if your opponents are casting on things that target their creatures, like, they're like, I expedite my creature, yay! And you're like, I expedite my Ivy, too, yay! You get free additional value off of that, again, with the value from your commander, too. That your commander gives this, I should say. But also, like, if you've got any targeting effects, you also get other single target effects on Ivy as well to double that up. Other things that like to be targeted as well, Storm Chaser Drake. I guess Ivy doesn't like to be targeted. It likes when you target other things. Storm Chaser Drake's like when you target it. A 2/1 Drake with flying that costs 2 mana. Whenever it becomes the target of a spell, you control, draw a card. Again, there's specific ones where you could build your deck like all ability targeting or all spell targeting or a combination of both. This one's definitely spell, obviously. Being able to draw a card every single time you target this, yeah, that's really, 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 really good. On top of, again, drawing a card and then maybe getting a second card in your hand or getting a land into play. Lovely. Silver Partisan, 2/2 Trampling Wolf Warrior for 3 mana. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control becomes a target of an instant or sorcery spell, get a 2/2 Wolf into play. Again, getting more creatures into play gives you more opportunities, of course, to get more targets, to get more things off the top of your library, either into play or in your hand. Lovely. Strategic Coral Helm. Again, kind of like mini combos in this, again, with the landfall synergies that you can have. Whenever a land is battlefield to control, choose 1. You may tap or untap target creature, scry 1. Yeah, the scry is nice, but, like, it is nice to kind of know what's on top, but, like, more so you're probably going to be like, oh, okay, I target a creature with this, which then triggers, and then I get another card off top of my library. So yeah, this can be very, very good. Again, if you keep hitting lands and you have enough creatures in play, you can just keep going and going and going and going and going. And then once you stop, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll play my Evolving Wilds for turn. Going and going and going and going. Oh, okay, I'll crack my Evolving Wilds. Going and going. I mean, that's saying that you had a lot of lands on top, but still, it could happen. You never know. Moving on, Retreat to Kazandu. Again, another landfall trigger that does target. Whenever a land is battlefield to control, choose 1, put a counter target creature, you gain 2 life. 2 life is nice. The counter is what you're going for, though. Again, basically, landfall, hey, get a potential trigger from your commander's ability that gives to others. That is pretty crazy. Paradoxical outcome. Here we go. Instant for 4 mana. Return any number of target non-land, non-token permanents you control to one's hands. Draw a card for each card. Return your hand this way. This can be a mass, self-bounce in a way, but also a mass target of all your things that aren't tokens and non-lands. But yeah, just targeting all your creatures essentially with this and be like, okay, I had 10 creatures, whatever it is. I bounce all them back to my hand. I draw 10 cards, and also I get 10 triggers off of that. Hey, top 2. Oh, I just ramped a ton or got more cards in my hand. At instant speed, lovely. That's pretty crazy. Aether Gale, at 5 mana, you bounce 6 things. Again, if you've got a bunch of low-to-the-ground creatures that you really want to focus on getting a lot of creatures out quickly, effectively, efficiently, and then just targeting them with things, you're like, yeah, okay, cool. Pay 5 mana, bounce my things back to my hand, which I'll replay later for awesomeness. Again, Ornithopter's like, oh, it's free, yay. But also being able to, oh, I get 6 triggers, cool. That's good for me. Or obviously just utilizing this against your opponents is very lovely too. Season of Growth. Again, if you have more of a focus, I would say, again, on targeting spells, this is really, really good in this deck. Season of Growth is an enchantment for 2 mana in green. Whenever a creature's battlefield control, scry 1. So that's already good with this kind of a deck, because being able to scry can set yourself up and be like, oh, actually, I want to land on top. So let's let's put that part on the bottom. Okay, ooh, I land on top. Great. Okay, so next time it triggers, and I know it's going to trigger this turn, I'm going to be able to get that land into play. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. And again, if you have a lot of targeting, you're going to be drawing a lot. Basically turns all those things that you're targeting with into cantrips, and some of them might already be cantrips, so you cantrip even further. Yeah, there's a lot of great synergies that can work with this commander. But again, when it comes to synergies, the ones that are really crazy are ones like this. Shuko. A very simple. This is $10? Oh my gosh. This is $10. Wizards, reprint it. Yeah, I mean, this works in very specific decks. Very specific. I think Cole the Forge Master or whatever, was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Equip creature gets +1/+0 for 1 mana. No one would care about this at all if the equip cost was 1. It's 0. People care about it. This is a free equip effect, which again is a free targeting effect, which with this commander is absurd. Let's say you've got, again, 5 creatures in play, whatever it is, okay? If you have this in play, you get all those targets every single one of your turns. Because again, you're like, okay, I move this from this creature to that creature, this creature to that creature, this creature to that creature. And you keep getting that target again. So again, with 5 creatures, that would be what, 10 times? So you get that trigger 10 times. That is insane. Again, just getting this down turn 1, you're like, okay, cool, I'm ready. Okay, turn 2, oh, I got a creature in play, or maybe even 2 creatures. Maybe you get 2 mana dorks in play, whatever they are. Cool. All right, turn 3, my commander. Okay, cool. 6 triggers for my commander. Yay! Everyone's happy. Just you are happy. Just you. Of course, there's other ones Lightning Greaves, incredible card that sees a ton of play. Already really good. Now very, very good. This commander. Equip creatures Haste and Shroud, equip 0. Keep in mind the Shroud does affect you a little bit, where you're like, oh darn, I can't target my creature that is, this attached to, but on your turn you can move this around to whatever you want to. Yeah, attach this again for free, move it around, essentially get whatever that trigger is as many times as you have with these. Umbral Mantle. This is also an infinite card with, certain mana dorks out there. Creature has pay 3 and untap. That is the untap symbol. This creature is +2/+2 until end of turn. Equip 0. So again, even if you're not going infinite with though, you are just be able to move this around to all your creatures and do that as many times as you want to until you run out of that trigger that you have essentially. This is absurd. Again, literally just picture you have a Rampaging Balos or a Zendikar's Royal in play. How obnoxious is this going to be? You just get any of these equip 0 things in play, and you're like, oh, okay, So I've got 5 creatures in play. That means 10 potential triggers. So let's do all those. Oh, I got like 5 lands off of that. Cool. All right, 5 lands into play. That's, I mean, obviously you'd have these triggers to happen separately. You have to like take one thing at a time, which is, again, is going to be pretty long and obnoxious. That being said, let's just shorthand it, okay? So I got 5 elementals or whatever, my Zendikar Royal. Okay, cool. Now let's just attach these to these. Oh, okay, cool. Hit more lands. Okay, cool. You can do broken things with this commander quite easily, quite quickly, quite effectively, quite efficiently, and there's a lot of repeatable effects. There's like only so many, yes, there's only so many equipment that have like equip 0, okay? Yes, that is true. And luckily you're not in white with this commander, so you don't have like Pure Steel Paladin to let you equip everything for free. Or like that one that lets you do like instant speed too. That being said, you got enough resources that you can do crazy things like this. Like you could like drift of phantasms like this into your hand, and then yeah, there's a lot of ways for you to build around this to go like broken quite quickly. Yeah. Cauldron of Souls, already very, very, very good card that I wish was budget friendly again, but it's not. Artifact for 5, tap, choose any number of target creatures. Those creatures gain persist till have turn. So this is great board wipe protection in a way. Like your creatures come back weaker, but who cares? I mean, you care a little bit, but still. What matters with this, though, is even if you're not protecting from a board wipe, you're like right before your turn, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Everyone's done. Everyone's done. Okay. I got 10 creatures in play. Okay, I'll tap this. My 10 creatures gain persist. Doesn't matter. Like they're not gonna die right now. That doesn't matter. What matters is I got 10 triggers from my commander's ability that I gave to everything, or trigger gave to everything, whatever it is, just for tapping this. Oh, absurd. Sea King's Blessing. There's a green version of this as well, I believe. I think it's around $10. Instant for a single blue mana. This is worded weirdly, but basically, it's basically like choose one or more creatures you control, or just one or more creatures, not you control even, I don't think. Choose one or more creatures, they become blue until end turn. That's like the shorthand of this, essentially. There's one for like each color, I believe. The white and the black one got really good with that one spirit commander from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, this and the green one are both very good too, because this is just 1 mana, instant speed, target any number of things. And again, it doesn't do anything really. It doesn't matter that you're turning creatures to blue. Unless like someone's got protection from blue. Then that's the only thing that would matter with this. But this really doesn't matter. All you need to do is just 1 mana. I target all my creatures. Cool, I get that trigger however many times. You have 10 creatures in play. Cool, you got that trigger 10 times. That's well worth it for the 1 mana to, again, get 10 card advantage slash ramp as well. Whatever it's going to be, okay? And again, the green version too, just for a single green mana. Whip of All Wrath, obviously buyback cards can be very good with this as well. Instant speed for a single blue mana, buyback to change the text of target permanent by replacing all instances of 1 color word or 1 basic land type with another turn. That does not matter at all. It literally doesn't matter at all. And in fact, you can target something that is a vanilla bear or a vanilla creature of whatever. It doesn't matter what you're targeting with this. You can still target something that doesn't have anything that you're changing on it. This is I can just pay 3 mana to get a trigger. Cool. 3 mana to get a trigger. 3 mana to get a trigger. Oh, I've got maybe some cost reducing things. Cool. I'll cost reduce this card. Yeah, with buyback, you can keep getting back again and again and again. So again, it depends on what direction you're going with this deck. You can go really heavy into ability targets that are, again, cheap and repeatable or free and repeatable. You can do like weird combo things with like Cowardice and Ornithopter kind of crazy things. Or you can do like more like targeting spells with like this, or again, Sea King's Blessing, which is a card that never sees any play. But yes, there's a lot of different directions you can go with this commander, and all of them are quite powerful and some are very, very broken. And, yeah, pretty brutal as well. Venerated Rot Priest, a 1/2 Phyrexian Druid for a single green mana, toxic 1. Whenever a creature controlled becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. Again, if you're doing crazy things, like, again, like Sea King's Blessing, oh, that can just be a, your opponent loses kind of card. Because you're going to be giving out a lot of poison counters with this if you, again, are targeting. And again, with all, like, your targeting things, maybe even consider Willbreaker if you want to be mean. A 2/3 human wizard for 5 mana in blue. Whenever a creature the opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, gain control of that creature for as long as you control Willbreaker. Yeah, you can just add to your army now by being like, oh, okay, okay, well, I don't have a lot of creatures over here, so I guess I'll use my Seeker of Skybreak to untap your creature. Oh, it's mine now. Yay! Okay, cool. All right, I'll attach my equipment to this one now. Okay, cool. I get another trigger. Yay! Yeah, you can do some crazy things with this. Basically steal your opponent's boards. And, yeah, it's kind of mean, but kind of fun for you. But now this episode is coming to a close. It's time for me to hear from you in the comments below. And also, if you are interested in this brand new, exciting, crazy, potentially broken commander that does crazy things with 0 equip costs and Ornithopters and whatnot and Cowardice, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And I hope to never play against your deck because it's going to be crazy, I am sure. So, yeah, make sure you're staying tuned to this even more exciting quick takes and spoilers. And, yeah, I was going to say leaks, but I think we're probably done with the leaks at this point. Although, like, the precons are going to be coming out here the next few days. So maybe some more leaks from there. Regardless, of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.